Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar and workshop series conducted by TCS in lieu of the upcoming SCS exams happening in February 2026. My name is Nicholas and I'm the lead tutor and evaluator for SCS at TCS. So let's look at the session outcomes. First things first, I'm going to teach you crucial answering and time management techniques. You have to master these two elements in order to pass this exam comfortably. And after teaching you these two techniques, I'm going to highlight how to apply these in the most practical manner by taking you through one of the questions which I've taken from SCS mock exam 1, and reminding you of the upcoming webinars and workshops which we have scheduled for you. So the next webinar is happening in the next month, the 3rd of January, because as you know, as I mentioned in last week's webinar, we are taking a 2-week break, given the fact that everybody is busy with Christmas festivities and the New Year. So because of that, we are taking a 2-week break. However, we are commencing preparations from the 3rd of January onwards, which is a Saturday. And at the same time, I will be conducting the 4th webinar in which I'm going to teach you crucial stress management techniques, because as I mentioned in last week's webinar, the examiner is not just testing your theory knowledge and application skills. The examiner wants to figure out whether you are capable of managing stressful situations. So it's essential that you master this skill before you walk into the examination. So all these things will be highlighted in the 4th webinar. And on top of it, I will also take you through examiner's comments to make sure that you understand what the examiner expects from you at the examination. And once we are done with the webinar series, we are kickstarting our workshop and masterclass series focused on each syllabus area, or each pillar rather. And in each of these workshops, I will be conducting a masterclass focused on one of the questions taken from our first mock exam, SCS mock 1. And at the same time, I will explain the theoretical elements covered in each of these three pillars. And also, I will be conducting Q&A. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can get them addressed instantaneously via these workshops and masterclasses. And the final workshop happens just 2 or 3 days before your examination, in which I'm going to share last-minute tips with you to make sure that you are capable of walking into the exam with a high level of positivity, believing in yourself, because if you believe in yourself, as per the CIMA examiner, you can easily pass this examination. So I hope you will attend the upcoming webinars and workshops as well to gain an in-depth understanding about the technicalities behind your exam, and at the same time, benefit from the masterclasses which we are going to conduct. And having said that, let's get to the nitty-gritties concerning the answering and time management technique. So first things first, before you approach each mock exam, you need to understand how you should manage your time, and at the same time, how you should develop your answers or answer structures or plan out your answers. So your first step when it comes to planning out your answer or developing your answer is to read the scenario. And when it comes to reading the scenario, as you know, in each section, there is a separate scenario along with 2 or 3 subtasks. And you'd also see some additional information shared with you via reference material. So you are supposed to read through the entire scenario plus the reference material within 5 minutes. So although I'm asking you to read the entire scenario within 5 minutes, if your reading speed is not up to par, you might take 7 to 10 minutes. If you take 7 minutes, still you are totally fine. But if you go beyond 7 minutes, then you need to take steps to improve your reading speed. And the only way to improve your reading speed is to practice reading. So purchase a newspaper, your Sunday newspaper, and dedicate 30 minutes to 60 minutes on a daily basis and read through the entire paper within a week. So on a daily basis, you have to practice reading if you are falling behind in terms of your reading speed. So as I mentioned earlier, the only way to improve your skill set, improve your reading speed is to practice. So purchase a newspaper, and the weekend newspaper carries a lot of pages. So purchase it, dedicate 30 to 60 minutes on a daily basis towards practicing reading. If you do so, you will gain the capability to read through each scenario and the reference material within just 5 to 7 minutes. So because it's a tough situation if you're struggling with your reading, because if you take more than 10 minutes when it comes to reading each scenario, then you are going to run out of time at your exam. And if you run out of time, you are never going to pass this examination. So I want you to read through the entire scenario as well as the reference materials information within just 5 to 7 minutes. So that's the first step which you need to master. After doing so, then before you develop the answer or before you plan out your answer, the second step is to reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. So let's look at how we are supposed to do this. So I'm going to direct your attention towards the first section of SCS Mock 1. As you can see, the time allocation is 60 minutes. It's as if you are receiving an email from your finance director. And let's try to figure out how you should simplify this requirement. So the requirement goes as: evaluate the financial analyst's comments regarding Cewmlator's proposal to launch a premium EV range with roof integrated solar charging technology. So this is a quite long requirement or a subtask. So before you structure your answer or plan out your answer, you are supposed to simplify this requirement in your own words in a concise manner. Why are you supposed to simplify the requirement? You are supposed to do this with two objectives in mind. Objective number one is to gain a high level of clarity about what you are expected to achieve. So when you have access to an extended requirement, if you do not take steps to simplify it, you are going to struggle to gain an in-depth understanding of what the requirement is going to be. So the first objective of simplifying the requirement is to figure out the requirement clearly. And the second objective is to make sure that your life becomes easy when it comes to developing the answer plan, because whilst developing the answer plan, let's assume you're halfway through the answer plan, you need to check whether you are headed in the correct direction or whether you are developing an answer which is aligned with the requirement. You can easily check this when you have access to a simplified requirement rather than having to read through several lines to gain an understanding of whether you are developing an answer which is aligned with the requirement or not. All right, so this is how you should simplify the requirement. Financial analyst's comments, you are supposed to evaluate the financial analyst's comments. Yes, financial analyst's comments, and it is about investing on solar technology. Cewmlator's proposal to launch a premium EV range with roof integrated solar charging technology. So I've simplified the entire requirement to gain a clear understanding of what I'm expected to achieve when it comes to developing the answer. And as I mentioned earlier, whilst developing the answer plan, I can easily refer back to a simplified requirement and see whether I'm developing an answer which is 100% aligned with the requirement. All right, so this is the requirement you'd see in the paper, but I've simplified it as FA's comments, investing in solar technology. So let's look at the second subtask. You are supposed to evaluate the CEO's suggestion with regards to the bonus. I've simplified it as director's bonus. And the third subtask is to recommend comprehensive strategies for Cewmlator to effectively manage stakeholder pressures created due to environmental issues, strategies to manage stakeholder pressure. So always remember, before you develop your answer plan, you are supposed to simplify the requirement in your own words in a concise manner. This makes your life extremely easy when it comes to understanding, gaining a clear understanding of each requirement. And at the same time, whilst developing the answer plan, you can easily check whether you are headed in the correct direction or not. Right? So that's the second step. Once you're done with the second step, then you should focus your attention towards developing headings and subheadings. Give me a second, please, guys. Someone's mic is on. I'm going to mute this individual. All right, superb. So we are in the third step now, which is to develop headings and subheadings. So if there are two subtasks within a certain section, there should be two main headings. And alternatively, if there are three subtasks, therefore, you need to have three main headings in your answer. So this is exactly what you can see in here. If you look at the answer plan, in terms of section number 1, there are 3 subtasks, and focused on each subtask, I've come up with a main heading which is in bold and underlined format. So FS comment, that's the first part or the first subtask, and this is the corresponding main heading. And always remember, a main heading should be in bold and underlined format. And let's look at the second subtask, director's bonus, again in bold and underlined format. So this is the second main heading. And in terms of the third subtask, again, I've developed the third main heading, which is again in bold and underlined format. And if you look at the final answer, I'm going to talk about how to structure a final answer in a little while. For now, I want you to gain an understanding about how to use these headings and subheadings. So this is my first main heading, which is in bold and underlined format. And this is my answer for the second subtask, which is again in bold and underlined format. And this is my answer for the third subtask. So you can use headings and subheadings so focused on each subtask, develop a main heading which is in bold and underlined format. And if you feel that you need to further fraction out your answer, you are invited to utilize subheadings, which should be in bold format. So main headings should be in bold and underlined format. Subheadings should be in bold format. All right, so that's your third step as per our answering technique. Once you're done with the first three steps, the fourth step is to develop the answer plan. And this is when you are structuring your answer. So most students out there, what they would do is to read through the scenario, and right after reading through the scenario, they'd start typing their final answer. You are not expected to do so. Instead, you are supposed to spend some time to plan your answer. It is not me who is asking you to do this. It is your CIMA examiner. If you go through the CIMA exam blueprints, which were developed for the previous pre-scenes, you know what I'm talking about. The examiner is adamant about the fact that you need to spend a considerable amount of time to plan your answer. So the benefit of planning your answer is the fact that you are spending some time to think. It's essential that you think at this stage, given the fact that you are playing the role of a decision maker. So if you have to come up with the best type of answers, you need to dedicate some time to think, structure your answer, and whilst structuring your answer or whilst planning your answer, you have to think in terms of what type of conceptual elements you need to bring in with the intention of enhancing the quality of your answer. And at the same time, you have to think about whether pre-seen information should be brought in and included in your answer with the intention of further enhancing the quality or the value of your answer. So this is a tough situation. If you try to, right after reading through the scenario, if you try to type out your final answer, you are not in a position to do all these things because you won't have enough time to think. You won't have enough time to refine your answer, and you won't have enough time to figure out whether your answer is aligned with the requirement or not. So most students, right after reading the scenario, they end up typing their final answer in paragraph form, and halfway through the answer, they figure out that their answer is not actually aligned with the requirement, or their answer is wrong, and therefore they end up deleting the entire answer and starting from scratch. And when this happens, you know for a fact that we have spent a lot of time, we have wasted a lot of time, and this is when stress sets in. And when you are stressed out, you are not going to come up with the best type of answers. Instead, you are going to develop rushed answers, and rushed answers are not the most rational type of answers, because when you try to rush a decision in our daily lives, when we try to rush a decision, we become emotional, and therefore we end up coming up with a rash decision rather than coming up with a rational decision. So in order to avoid all these shortcomings and to manage your time effectively, it's essential that you take 30 minutes in each section to develop the answer plans focused on all subtasks. And your typical answer plan should look something like this. So as you can see, I've come up with several different bullet points and sub-bullet points and whatnot. And the objective is not to type out the entire answer in paragraph form. You don't see long sentences and whatnot. Instead, I've spent some time to structure my answer with the intention of ensuring that I've covered all elements and to make sure that I'm developing an answer which is aligned with my requirement, and to ensure that I'm bringing in, as and when necessary, theoretical concepts or conceptual knowledge, and also, if necessary, I make sure to bring in pre-seen information. So I'm spending 30 minutes in each section to plan out the entire answer. So within these 30 minutes, you are supposed to develop the answer plan for all three subtasks. So in this section, there are three subtasks. So focused on all three subtasks, you are supposed to develop the answer plans within just 30 minutes. So although I'm asking you to develop the answer plans focused on the entire section within just 30 minutes, you are not in a position to achieve this when you are attempting your first mock exam, because you are learning this technique for the first time. So as I mentioned about, what you need to do to improve your reading speed, I said that you need to, in order to improve your reading speed, you need to practice reading. Similarly, in order to have the capability to develop answer plans within just 30 minutes, you need to practice this technique. So when you are implementing this technique for the first time or practicing this technique for the first time, you will definitely run out of time. Although I'm asking you to develop the answer plan within just 30 minutes, you will take something like 45 to 50 minutes. That's quite normal. Don't be demotivated, because with practice, you can significantly improve this answering technique. And at the same time, by the time you are in mock number 4, for instance, you will have the capability to develop answer plans within just 30 minutes. So you are going to struggle right now. Keep practicing these techniques, and by the time you are in mock number 4, you need not worry. You will have the capability to develop answer plans within just 30 minutes. All right, so that's, I showed you what an answer plan looks like. And when developing your answer, or when developing your answer plan, you need to gain a clear understanding of how many points or answer points you need to include under each and every subtask. So I mentioned in last week's webinar that at the end of each subtask, you will see a weightage. And based on this weightage, you can easily determine how many points you need to include in each and every subtask. So what am I talking about? So if you look at section number 1, the first subtask carries a weightage of 30%, the second 20%, and the third 50%. So as I mentioned in last week's webinar, these percentages indicate how many points are dedicated under each and every subtask. So as you know, the total mark allocation for each section is 50. So 30% of 50 marks come up to how much? As per what's highlighted in here, this is the answer plan which we have developed. So the weightage provided is 30%. So 30% of 50 marks come up to 15 marks in total. And if you look at the second subtask, the weightage provided is 20%. So 20% of 50 marks come up to 10 marks in total. And if you look at the third subtask, the weightage provided is 50%. So 50% of 50 marks come up to 25 marks in total. So now, based on the weightages, you have understood the mark allocations. And the next step is to figure out how many points you need to include under each subtask based on these mark allocations. So as per the CIMA examiner, each valid point carry 2 or 3 marks. So what you need to do is, since you know a 30% weightage indicates that 15 marks are dedicated for the first subtask, and now since you know that each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks, divide 15 by 3, you get an answer which is 5. And again, divide 15 by 2, you get an answer which is 7. So if you develop, or if you include 5 to 7 valid points under the answer plan considering the first subtask, you will get full marks. So let me reiterate this methodology once more so that you'd gain a clear understanding. So the weightage provided for the first subtask is 30%. So 30% out of 50 marks come up to 15 marks in total. So in order to gain 15 marks, you need to understand how many points you need to include under the first subtask. Since each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks, divide 15 by 3 first, then again divide 15 by 2. When you divide 15 by 3, you get 5. And when you divide 15 by 2, you get 7. So if you include 5 to 7 valid points for the first subtask, you are going to gain full marks. Similarly, let's direct our attention towards subtask 2. So the weightage provided is 20%. 20% of 50 marks come up to 10 marks in total. So divide 10 by 3, you get an answer which is 3. Then again divide 10 by 2, you get an answer which is 5. So if you include 3 to 5 valid points under subtask B, you are going to get full marks. And the weightage provided for the third subtask is 50%. So 50% of 50 marks come out to 25 marks in total. So divide 25 by 3, you get an answer which is 8.8, something like 8, yes. And again, divide 25 by 2, you get an answer which is 12 or 12.5. So if you include 8 to 12 valid points under the third subtask, you are going to get full marks. So that is how you are supposed to know or determine how many points you need to include under each and every subtask. And when you stick to this methodology, you are taking steps to ensure that you are developing an answer which is totally aligned with mark allocations. You are taking steps to develop an answer which is not too short or too long, because your effort is dedicated towards identifying the mark allocations. Based on the mark allocations, you are supposed to identify how many points you are supposed to include in each answer. And when you know the exact number of points which you need to include in your answer, you are never going to develop an answer which is too long or too short. And whilst doing all this, whilst achieving all these things, you are taking steps to manage your time effectively. Because most students, they run out of time because they come up with answers which are too long, especially concerning the first subtask. So when you start with the first subtask, students have a tendency to develop extremely long answers. When this happens, they run out of time in terms of especially the final subtask. If there are 3 subtasks, students write extremely long answers focused on the first subtask. But when they come to the final subtask, they run out of time. And as you can see, the highest weightage is dedicated towards the final subtask. So even if you score full marks in the first 2 subtasks, if you run out of time, you'd end up losing 25 marks or 50% of the marks which are dedicated for section number 1. So it's essential that you practice this technique. So that's why I asked you not to attempt mock number 1 under exam conditions until you learn this answering and time management technique. So you are supposed to develop the answer plan within 30 minutes, covering all subtasks. And when doing so, determine mark allocations based on the weightages. As I mentioned earlier, each valid point carry 2 or 3 marks. So you now know how to determine how many points you need to include under each subtask. And when developing the answer plan, develop it on the answer screen. Do not use your scratch pad. Why am I asking you to do this? Because you are supposed to operate in a stressful situation, in a time-pressured environment. When this is the case, when you have to shift between 2 screens, the answer screen and the scratch pad, it exposes you to undue levels of stress and complexities. I want you to avoid all these undue levels of stress and complexities in order to pass this exam comfortably. So when developing the answer plan, do it on the answer screen itself. When you do so, let's assume for the first subtask, you decided to include 6 valid points. And let's assume that you develop this answer plan on the scratch pad. And although you have already decided to include 6 valid points, when you're expanding your answer, you missed out on one of the points which appears in the scratch pad. So in order to avoid this pitfall, develop the answer plan on the answer screen itself. Then you will surely cover all the points which you have indicated in your answer plan. So don't develop the answer plan on the scratch pad. Instead, develop the answer plan on the answer screen itself, because whilst developing the answer plan, as per how the Pearson VUE system works, you can easily gain access to the reference material, the task, as well as the pre-scene onto the right-hand or the right side of your screen. So don't forget about the scratch pad. Instead, develop the answer plan on the answer screen. And once you have developed the answer plan or finalized your answer plan, the remaining 20 to 25 minutes of your time should be dedicated towards expanding the answer in paragraph form. So when it comes to planning your answer, although your answer plans look something like this, although you see a lot of short sentences and bullet points and whatnot, your final answer should not look something like this. Instead, your final answer should be in paragraph form. Remember, the examiner intends to replicate a real-life corporate environment. So in a real-life corporate environment, when you are reporting or when you are responding to an email, you will adhere to the same methodology. So always remember that your final answer should be in paragraph form, not in bullet points. And when it comes to expanding the answer plan, come up with a paragraph per answer point. So let's assume for the first subtask, you decided to include 6 valid points or 6 main points. Then in your final answer, there should be 6 different paragraphs, and each paragraph should consist of 2 to 4 line sentences. Don't write the entire answer in one single paragraph, because if you do so, you are not assisting the marker who is going to mark your paper. So it's better to be in the good books of your marker to gain good marks at your examination. So the examiner expects you to develop the answer in paragraph form, and per answer point, you need to come up with a separate paragraph. When you do so, the marker can easily count and see how many points you have included in your answer. And out of all these points, the marker can easily see which points are inaccurate and which points are accurate. Therefore, the marker can easily count the number of accurate points and indicate the marks which you have gained for each and every subtask. Alternatively, if you had written the entire answer in one single paragraph, the marker is going to struggle to figure out how many points you have included, and out of these points, how many are accurate and how many are inaccurate. So please assist the marker, because if you do so, you'd be in the good books. And let's assume you have, after collating all your marks, you have scored just 78 marks. The marker will always try to give you the 2 additional marks, given the fact that you have assisted the marker. So always listen to the CIMA examiner, be in the good books of your marker. If that is the case, even if you are supposed to fail scoring something like 77 or 78, you will get the additional 2 or 3 marks if you have listened to the CIMA examiner and if you have taken steps to assist your marker at the examination. So your final answer should look something like this. So you are supposed to develop a paragraph per answer point. So if you have indicated 6 main points in your answer plan, then in your final answer, there should be 6 different paragraphs. So that's exactly what you can see throughout this answer. The entire answer is in paragraph form. Okay, so that's how you should approach each and every section when attempting each mock exam. And this is the same methodology which you need to replicate at your real exam as well. All right. So having said that, I'm going to summarize everything which I mentioned right now. So as I mentioned earlier, per subtask, you need to develop a heading which should be in bold and underlined format. And if you feel under a certain subtask, you need to further fraction out your answer, you can utilize subheadings. If so, it should be in bold format. And the expected typing speed is 20 words per minute. If you are falling behind this limit, then you have to, just like what I mentioned in terms of having to practice your reading speed, you have to take steps to practice your typing speed. So on a daily basis, dedicate 30 minutes to 60 minutes of your time. Purchase a newspaper and type what appears in the newspaper articles on a daily basis, because without practicing your typing speed, you are not going to pass this examination. If you're slow, if you are a slow typer, then it's essential that you take steps to practice on a daily basis. So practice your reading speed, practice your typing speed. If you do so, you will manage your time effectively at your exam. If not, however much knowledgeable you are not going to pass this examination. And as I mentioned earlier, your final answer should be in paragraph form. So develop a paragraph per answer point, and each paragraph should consist of 2 to 4 sentences. And do not spend time on formatting. The only type of formatting you have to be considerate about is the fact that you have to utilize a heading per subtask. You can use subheadings. Headings should be in bold and underline format, and subheadings should be in bold format. And per answer point, you need to develop a paragraph. Other than that, you need not worry about paragraph alignment and whatnot, because you are not going to gain any marks for achieving these things. And always remember, you are going to get marks based on the quality of your answer, not the quantity. I've seen tutors out there saying that you need to type an X amount of words to gain an X amount of marks. That is never going to be the case, because as I mentioned throughout this webinar series, I mentioned the fact that the examiner is trying to replicate a real life corporate environment. So just think that you are actually working within this company. And at office, when you are responding to, after you have responded to an email, is your superior going to count the number of words in your response, or is the superior going to look at the quality of what is contained within your response? The superior is always going to look at the quality. No one is going to count the number of words and penalize you if the answer is too short or too long. Instead, always focus on the quality of the content of your answer. That is why you have to get your grips with the answering technique, which we highlighted, because as per our answering technique, based on the weightages, you are supposed to determine mark allocations. Based on the mark allocations, you are supposed to determine how many points you are supposed to include under each subtask. And based on this guidance, you are supposed to develop an answer plan. After you have developed an answer plan, you are supposed to expand each main point in paragraph form. So if you stick to this structure, you are not directing your attention towards a word count. Instead, you are directing your attention towards developing answers which are 100% aligned with each requirement and 100% aligned with the marks dedicated for each and every subtask. All right. So focus on quality. So if you take steps to practice this answering technique after attempting each mock exam, if you take steps to revise by redeveloping answer plans, you are focusing on improving the quality of your answer. If that is the case, if you take these steps, you are going to significantly improve your skill set. And when you have taken steps to improve your skill set, you are definitely going to score extremely good marks at your examination. So that's the answering technique. Having said that, I want to explain how your exam platform works. So as you know, you are supposed to attempt the exam via the Pearson VUE system. And at TCS, we have replicated the Pearson VUE system. This is a 100% replication. So based on screenshots taken from our exam platform, I'm going to explain how your exam platform is going to work at your real examination. So you will see a page similar to this, which indicates how many sections are there in your paper, and under each section, how many subtasks are there and whatnot. So once you press on begin, you will be directed to the first section of your examination. So this these screenshots rather are taken from SCS Mock 1 concerning our exam platform. So you'd see the mock number as well as the section, and you'd see a timer running down from 60 minutes, and you'd see the section number as well. Out of 3 sections, you are in section number 1. And also you will see 4 different buttons. The first one is the calculator button, which gives you access to a calculator. You are not expected to do major calculations. However, you might have to work out a post-investment gearing and whatnot. So these are minor calculations, and you need to have access to a calculator. You cannot have a calculator on your own during the exam. That is why this calculator is built in to your exam platform. And you also have access to a scratch pad. I said that you are not expected to develop the answer plan on the scratch pad. Instead, whilst reading through the scenario, if you feel that you need to jot down something, jot it down on the scratch pad. Other than that, you need not really use it. And also you see 2 different buttons which are termed reference material and pre-scene. So you have access to the reference material within the same exam platform. So once you click on reference material, a pop-up will appear to the right side of your screen. So you see all the information in here. And on top of that, you can see a pre-seen button as well. When you click this pre-seen button, the pre-seen will pop up onto your right of the screen. So that's how the exam platform works. And once you have read through the entire scenario, the reference material and whatnot, you can click on next. Once you click on next, the platform will direct you to the answer screen. So this is what the answer screen looks like. And within the answer screen, you see the same 4 buttons: the calculator, scratchpad, reference material, and the pre-seen, which indicates the fact that you have access to the reference material, the pre-seen, and the requirement or the scenario in one single place when you are on the answer screen. So if you click on the reference material button, you would see the reference material onto the right of your screen. Similarly, when you click on the pre-seen button, you will gain access to the pre-seen document. And on top of that, you'd see once the pre-seen button is clicked, within this pop-up, you'd see 2 different tabs. One of the tabs direct you to the pre-seen, and the other tab directs you to the requirement. So you have access to the pre-seen, the requirement, as well as the reference material onto the right of your screen. So this makes your life easy when it comes to developing your answer plan or structuring your answer. That's why I said that you are supposed to develop the answer plan on the answer screen itself. Do not utilize the scratchpad, because then this is going to be another pop-up. Rather than having to juggle between pop-ups, develop the answer plan on the answer screen. Develop the answer plan onto the left of your screen, whilst developing it as and when necessary. If you need to gain access to pre-seen information, reference materials information, or the scenarios info, you can easily gain access to this information onto the right of your screen. So whilst referring to all this information, you can easily develop the answer plan onto the left of your screen. So this is what you need to do. So whilst gaining access to all this information onto the right of your screen, you are supposed to develop the answer plan onto the left of your screen. So when developing the answer plan, keep it simple, because your objective is to structure the answer and to make sure that you are developing a high quality answer. So when it comes to planning out your answer, keep it simple, because if you try to type long sentences, then you'd have to keep closing these pop-ups. Instead, have the pop-ups onto your right, and at the same time, develop the answer plan so that you can easily gain access to all the relevant information instantaneously without having to close any of these pop-ups. All right. So once you have developed the answer plan, as I mentioned earlier, taking the final 20 to 25 minutes of your time in each section, expand the answer plan in paragraph form. So when you develop the answer plan on the answer screen itself, and when it comes to expanding the answer plan, you can make sure to cover all these points which appear within your answer plan when it comes to expanding your answer in paragraph form. And once you have finalized your answer, if the clock runs out, you will be you'd see something like this, a pop-up like this. If not, if you want to move on to section number 2, for instance, if you're done with section number 1, even if there's time remaining, you can click on submit answer. When you click it, you would see this type of pop-up. And if you click yes, you would be directed to section number 2. And when you are in section number 2, the technicalities are the same as what you saw in section number 1. You'd see the timer running down from 60 minutes. You are in section number 2 out of 3 sections. You see the same 4 buttons. However, you do not see a previous button, which indicates the fact that you cannot go back to section number 1 when you are in section number 2. So when it comes to managing your time, you should not plan to manage 3 hours at a stretch. Instead, you need to break it down into 3 different sections, because when you are in a section, you cannot go back to the previous section. So therefore, when it comes to planning your time, you need to think in terms of 3 slots of 60 minutes each. So that is why I said you need to dedicate 5 minutes to read through the entire scenario, dedicate 30 minutes to develop the answer plan. 30 plus 5 come up to 35 minutes in total, and the remaining time is 25 minutes. So utilizing your remaining time, expand your answer plan in paragraph form. Once you're done with it, then you need to replicate the same methodology in your subsequent sections as well. All right, so that's how your exam platform works. And before I explain how to implement these answering and time management techniques in the most practical manner, let me quickly tell you what we offer at TCS. So I'm on the SCS page. If you're yet to create a free user account, click on this button. Once you have created one, you'd gain access to the student dashboard. And when you are in the student dashboard, click on My Courses, and in front of SCS Free, you'd see an Access Content button. Click on it, and under the Videos tab, you'd gain access to the recorded versions of the weekly webinars and workshops we conduct. Onto the right of your screen, it's still loading. And then under the Study Material tab, you'd gain access to the pre-seed mind map and the answer plan of mock number 1. Under the mocks tab, you'd gain access to the questions and suggested answers of mock exam 1. And via the exams tab, you have the opportunity of attempting mock number 1 in its entirety under exam conditions via TCS's exam platform. As I mentioned earlier, as you saw earlier, we have replicated the Pearson VUE system. So you have the opportunity of attempting mock number 1 under exam conditions, which is the best way to practice the answering and time management techniques which you learned right now. So make use of the free resources on offer by creating a free user account. And if you are interested in investing on our paid content, click on this button and check our sample material before you do so. And if you're yet to join our SCS WhatsApp discussion forum, click on this button and join it. Via this group, we are going to keep you guys informed of the weekly webinar and workshop commencement dates and times. And at the same time, we are going to share hordes of free resources with you. And if you have any questions, you can get them addressed or answered instantaneously via this SCS WhatsApp group. And talking about what we offer 2 packages, the Essential course and the Premium course. The Essential course is designed for those who have completed their OTQs or those who are coming through the general route. Since you have completed your OTQs, you have already championed theory. It's simply a matter of, when conducting your preparations, it's simply a matter of brushing up your application skills. So under the Essential course, you'd gain access to the recordings of all weekly webinars and workshops, 6 mock exams with suggested answers, although it says that you'd gain access to 6 mock exams. Actually, we have developed 7 mock exams this time. So you gain access to 63 subtasks in total. And when developing these 7 mock exams, we have made sure to cover all syllabus areas which appear under E3, F3, and P3 syllabi to make sure that you are not testing your luck at your exam. Instead, you are fully prepared to face any conceptual element at your real examination. You'd also gain access to pre-scene analysis videos. Once you have watched these pre-scene analysis videos, you will gain an in-depth understanding of the internals and externals of Cewmlator. So you need not waste time to understand or evaluate the pre-scene. We have done it for you. Also, you will gain access to the annotated pre-scene, the industry and financial analysis slides. So this is what our annotated pre-scene looks like. So as you can see, we have summarized the entire pre-scene as part of our annotations. Also, we have conducted our own analysis as and when necessary, and also highlighted probable exam scenarios which can be tested at the exam. And when developing the 7 mock exams, we have made sure to cover all these elements within our mock papers. And similarly, we have conducted an industry analysis. So this is divided into 4 main parts. In the first part, we have defined your industry. In the second part, we have explained about what happens within this typical industry, and also highlighted industry trends. Mind you, based on these industry trends, scenarios can be thrown at you at your real exam. And finally, we have considered 2 real-life companies and explained what real-life companies go through within your typical industry. And we have also evaluated the financial statements. So we have evaluated the SOPL, the SOFP, and the statement of changes in equity. And when you are conducting our evaluations, we have made sure to keep things simple so that you can easily gain an understanding of the financial standing of your chosen company. And also, we have conducted a ratio analysis. Again, we have evaluated each ratio in depth, comparing your performance against your closest competitors to give you a clear insight of where we stand as a company against the closest competitor, which is a similar player within our industry. So these are the resources on offer under the essential course. You'd also gain access to top 20 likely issue slides, which indicate the most probable scenarios which can be tested at the exam. You will gain access to a case study familiarization kit. Once you have read through this kit, in a jiffy, you are in a position to understand the technicalities behind your exam. You'd also gain access to a tutor-managed live chat and OTQ revision cards. So after attempting each mock exam, if you feel that you need to brush up your theoretical knowledge, don't waste time. Don't go through your past notes or bulky study texts. Simply refer to our OTQ revision cards to brush up your knowledge in a jiffy. So the essential course is priced at £299. And talking about the premium course, this is designed for those who are coming through the exemption routes and those who had failed the SCS exam previously. So both these sets of students have the same problem. There are gaps in theory knowledge and issues with application. So with the intention of teaching you theory and fixing your application skills, we have included some additional resources under the premium course on top of what you'd gain access to under the essential course. So under premium, you'd gain access to the online mock exam platform on which you can attempt all mock exams under exam conditions, which is the best way to practice your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. You will also gain access to the answer plans of all mock exams. You saw what our answer plans look like, and this is the easiest way to learn theory and improve your application, improve your understanding about how to structure your answers. And this is a tool which will assist you immensely when it comes to revising your knowledge, because when you are revising, you are supposed to redevelop answer plans. So after redeveloping answer plans, compare your fresh answer plans to TCSs to gain a clear insight of what your mistakes are, to gain an understanding of whether you are repeating the same mistakes, or to gain an understanding of whether you have gotten rid of all your mistakes, and therefore you are capable of developing high quality answer plans. And also you gain access to 15 masterclasses in total, which are focused on mocks 2 to 6. Mock number 1's masterclasses are conducted via the webinars and workshops, which we conduct on a weekly basis free of charge. But from mock number 2 onwards, you will gain access to the masterclasses which we have developed focused on each mock exam. And the objective of developing these masterclasses is to explain the logic behind each answer, and at the same time teach you the theoretical or conceptual element covered in each and every section. Whilst doing so, we are explaining application. So rather than you learning theory in isolation and having to figure out application on your own, we have covered both these two elements, which makes your life easy when it comes to significantly improving your conceptual knowledge and application skills. So you need not worry about learning theory and figuring out application. Simply watch the masterclasses. In a little while, I'm going to conduct a masterclass. Then you will realize what is contained within these masterclasses, and then you'd hopefully realize how effective they are when it comes to learning theory and improving application. And you also receive one-on-one tutor feedback on 2 mock exams, namely mocks 3 and 5. And let me quickly show you the type of feedback on offer. So as you can see, we have evaluated each and every point, making sure to highlight your shortcomings, because the objective of seeking tutor feedback should be to understand your shortcomings. Because if you don't understand your shortcomings, you'd end up repeating the same mistakes at your examination. Alternatively, if you seek tutor feedback, you'd understand your shortcomings, and when you understand your shortcomings, you can take steps to avoid them when conducting your preparations focused on the upcoming exam. So this is the type of feedback on offer. You can see the type of feedback offered by TCS, and at the very end, you'd gain access to mark allocations on a subtask by subtask basis. Not just marks, we have also indicated the success rate as well. And if you direct your attention towards the yellow highlighted subtasks, these are the subtasks in which you have scored low marks. And when conducting revision after receiving tutor feedback, you are supposed to conduct revision, which is to redevelop your answer plans. And when it comes to redeveloping your answer plans, focus on the subtasks which are highlighted in yellow, which is the best way to make sure that you're revising based on overcoming your shortcomings. And we also provide general comments at the very end as well. So that's the type of comprehensive feedback on offer at TCS if you opt to purchase the premium course. So the premium course is priced at £599, which can be paid in 2 installments of £299 each, or if you opt to pay in full, you will save £100. Therefore, the price is just £499. So you can invest on your preferred course by clicking on either of these buttons. And all products are available until the 28th of February 2026, because as you know, the next exam sitting, which is happening in May 2026, is going to be based on a new syllabus and a new pre-scene. All right, let me quickly take you to the SCS study plan as well, because some of you have already started your preparations as per the study plan. So as per the study plan, we are in week number 3. So within the by attending this webinar, your objective is to learn answering and time management techniques. After you have learned these 2 techniques, you have to put these techniques to test by attempting mock number 1 under exam conditions via our exam platform. You are definitely going to struggle. You are definitely going to run out of time. Don't be demotivated, because you are definitely going to run out of time, because you are trying to practice the answering and time management techniques which you have just learned for the first time. And once you're done with mock number 1, take a break. 2 or 3 days later, attempt mock number 2 again via the exam platform, practicing answering and time management techniques under exam conditions. Once you have attempted mock number 2, watch the 3 masterclasses which we have developed focused on mock number 2. By watching these 3 masterclasses, you will understand how to structure your answer, how you should have approached conceptual elements and application. Once you have learned these elements, redevelop answer plans, thereby conducting revision. So once you have watched the 3 masterclasses, go through TCS's answer plans, then keep it aside, redevelop the answer plan on your own. The objective is to make sure that you test whether you have gained something via the masterclasses. And once you have redeveloped your answer plans, compare your fresh answer plans to TCS's to further enhance your understanding. So this is the best way to conduct your preparations, because you are conducting preparations solely focused on mock exams. You are revising focused on mock exams. You are learning theory and application focused on mock exams, rather than learning theory in isolation and trying to work out application on your own. This is the best way to conduct your preparations. All right, so that's what you're supposed to do in the upcoming 2 or 3 weeks until we commence our studies in the 4th week, which is the 3rd of January 2026. So you have something like 2 weeks at your disposal. So in the upcoming 2 weeks, complete mocks 1 and 2, conduct your revision focused on the same 2 mock exams. And when we kickstart our preparations in January, then you are supposed to focus your attention towards attempting a mock exam per week, in which you are supposed to master mock number 3. All right, so that's what you're supposed to do in the upcoming weeks. And having said that, let's move back to the answering and time management techniques. I said that I'm going to highlight how to implement these 2 techniques in the most practical manner. So I'm going to take you through one of the mock exams which we have developed. So before I do so, let me quickly reiterate what I explained at the very inception of this session. You are supposed to read the scenario, which takes about 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. Then before you develop the answer plan, reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. Then develop headings and subheadings. Then focus your attention towards developing the answer plan. And once you have developed the answer plan within 30 minutes, expand your answer plan within 20 to 25 minutes by developing a paragraph per answer point. All right. So I'm moving towards the discussion of mock number 1. So in today's session, I want to direct your attention towards the second subtask of section number 1 of this mock paper, which we have developed. So we have, similar to this session, we have tackled answering and time management techniques in the previous session, which was focused on November 2026 exams. After this webinar, I'm going to share the link to this webinar with you, because in this webinar, skip the front parts or the the first elements of the webinar and skip to this mock exam discussion, because in this webinar I've covered the third subtask, which is focused on the Mendelow's matrix. Since I've already covered this in the previous session, I want to direct your attention towards the second subtask. All right. So this scenario highlights a situation where we are trying to diversify into producing EVs with roof integrated solar panels, enabling trickle charging while parked to extend range and battery life, especially in sun-rich markets. So we are trying to pursue some type of a diversification, a related diversification as per this scenario. And financial analysts say that this diversification is going to expose us to long-term benefits. We are going to experience revenue growth, stronger cash flows, and possible share price gains if solar charging becomes a key differentiator within the market. However, analysts warn of a short-term beta increase due to new operational, technological, and strategic risks involved in scaling an unfamiliar product line. So the pros and cons of this initiative has been highlighted by these financial analysts. So tied to this scenario, let's look at what the second requirement tells us or expects us to achieve. Encouraged by financial analysts' projections of improved revenue, stronger cash flow, and potential share price appreciation, the CEO remarked that, assuming a successful launch and market response, board members' bonuses should be increased to reflect their role in driving strategic growth. So if the CEO is saying that, since the financial analysts are saying that the revenues are going to increase, the cash flows are going to increase, therefore the share price is going to increase, which is tied to this diversification, the CEO is suggesting that we should increase the bonuses of board members. However, the comment has sparked internal debate regarding the appropriateness and timing of such a proposal, given the early stage nature of this initiative and the risks associated with this new diversification. So although the CEO says that we should increase the bonuses of board members, some board members are against this bonus increment, given the risks tied to us pursuing some type of related diversification, and also they are concerned about the timing of the proposal to pay bonuses. So your job, if you look at the requirement, your job is to evaluate the CEO's suggestion with regards to the bonus. All right. So this requirement has nothing to do with the reference material, because the reference material is totally aligned with the third subtask, because it says clearly, on an unrelated matter, I'm sharing an article which was published on Daxler News. Please refer to the attachment. So this reference material has nothing to do with section number 2. All right. So as per our answering technique, you have read the scenario. I've read the scenario and the requirement. And then my next step should be to reiterate each requirement in my own words in a concise manner. So the requirement goes as: evaluate the CEO's suggestion with regards to the bonus. So I've simplified it as director's bonus. Okay. So before you develop the answer plan, you are supposed to simplify the requirement with two objectives in mind. Objective number 1 is to gain a clear understanding of the requirement. Objective number 2 is to make sure that whilst developing the answer plan, you have access to a simplified requirement which assists you when it comes to figuring out whether you are developing an answer which is 100% aligned with the requirement or not. All right. So that's the second step. You have reiterated the requirement in your own words in a concise manner, and then you should focus on developing an appropriate heading as well as subheadings if necessary. I don't feel the need for a subheading or a set of subheadings rather. So therefore, I've simply come up with a main heading which is in bold and underlined format. And once you're done with it, then you are supposed to develop the answer plan. You are supposed to spend 30 minutes to develop the answer plan concerning all 3 subtasks. I don't have time to take you through all 3 subtasks, since I'm only directing your attention towards subtask B. I'm not going to really be concerned about the time which I'm going to dedicate because I'm going to explain the answer as well. Definitely, it is going to take more than 30 minutes. But at the exam, you are supposed to develop the answer plan taking 30 minutes, thereby developing the answer plan focused on all subtasks which appear within a certain section. And when developing this answer plan, you are supposed to determine mark allocations based on the weightages, and each valid point, as I mentioned earlier, carry 2 or 3 marks. All right. So the weightage provided is 20%. So 20% of 50 marks come up to 10 marks in total. Since each valid point carry 2 or 3 marks, you are supposed to divide 10 by 3 and divide 10 by 2. Therefore, you need to include 3 to 5 valid points in your answer plan. So I've included 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 valid points in my entire answer with the intention of gaining the most amount of marks. All right. And once you have determined how many points you should include in your answer, then you are supposed to develop the answer plan on the answer screen itself. All right. So let me explain the logic behind this answer. Whilst doing so, I'm going to teach you the conceptual element covered within this section, and also highlight how to work in terms of application. All right. So your job is to evaluate the CEO's decision in terms of awarding a bonus to our directors. So if we move ahead, or if we move forward with this decision, if we align ourselves with the CEO's decision to pay a bonus, it will expose us to several governance considerations. Bonuses should reward realized performance, not projected outcomes. So as per what's highlighted in this scenario, the financial analysts are predicting that we are going to benefit from improved revenues, improved cash flows, as well as an improvement in our share price. All these things are projections. We are not too sure of whether this new initiative, whether this new diversification is going to bear fruit or not. So if we are supposed to pay a bonus, it could be a board member, it could be our employees, irrespective of whether we are rewarding our employees or directors, we should always make sure that we reward realized performance, not projected outcomes. And the diversification's benefits at this moment remain unproven. Once we implement the strategy, we will figure out whether we have actually been successful with this diversification. If so, we will benefit from recurring revenue, improve cash flow, and improvement in our share price. If this is the case, it is all right to pay a bonus to our directors. However, this is not the time to pay a bonus, given the fact that we are still in the initial stages. We are still thinking in terms of going ahead with this diversification. Just because the financial analysts are predicting that we are going to benefit from improved revenues, cash flows, and an improvement in share price, we should not pay bonuses right now. Because if we move forward with prematurely rewarding our board members, we are not really aligning with good governance practices, which is going to impact our reputation, as well as shareholder relationships, as well as other stakeholder relationships in a negative manner. So all these negative governance considerations, we'd have to face all these negative consequences rather, if we go down this route, if we listen to the CEO and award a bonus right now. And on top of that, on top of governance considerations, when moving ahead with when moving forward with a bonus payment, we have to think first things first about governance considerations. Then we have to think about how the stakeholders are going to react to this situation. So if we pay the bonus right now, there is going to be a potential shareholder pushback, because we are not really thinking about long-term value creation. Because if we generate long-term value, then when we move towards paying a bonus, the shareholders will actually believe about the fact that the board deserves a bonus. But right now, right before starting this project, right before implementing this strategy, if we try to reward our board members, it is going to dissatisfy our shareholders. And our board will be seen as self-serving, because we have not achieved any financial returns as yet. And this might be seen as misplaced optics during costly investment period. So we are going to go for a related diversification, which is going to expose us to costly investments. When this is the case, as you know, investments result in cash outflows. So when we are forecasting cash outflows, if we are to go down this route, and on top of it, if we are supposed to pay a bonus, this results in additional cash outflows, which is not going to be too good for our balance sheet, our cash flow position, and therefore this is going to dissatisfy our shareholders. So we have to think in terms of how the shareholders are going to react to this situation. And on top of that, most importantly, we have to think in terms of the concerns of ESG conscious investors. So not just all shareholders, we have to think in terms of ESG conscious shareholders as well, and how they are going to react to a bonus payment right now. So the timing may appear ethically questionable because, as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be costly investments tied to this initiative. On top of it, when we go for an additional cost, which is to pay additional bonuses to our board members, it is not going to be unethical. ESG conscious investors are going to see this as something unethical, and also they are going to question the fairness of such an initiative, because the CEO is not talking about paying bonuses to everyone within the organization. There's no mention about remunerating employees. Instead, they are only thinking about their own personal interests or the personal interests of board members. So this exposes us to a fairness issue if employee level bonuses remain unchanged. So just like you contemplated about governance considerations, you have to also think about how the stakeholders are going to react to this situation as well. So I've highlighted the fact that shareholders are going to potentially be against this initiative, especially ESG conscious investors. Then you have to think in terms of how the type of risks we might be exposed to if we go down this route and pay a bonus to our board members. If we do so, since the shareholders are going to be dissatisfied, we are going to be exposed to reputational risks, and if our reputation is adversely impacted, stakeholders are not going to trust us when operating within this market, which is ever changing. It's essential that we keep good relations with all stakeholders we deal with at the moment, especially given the fact that we are operating in a dynamic market. However, when we try to compensate our board members even before spearheading or starting this initiative, this exposes us to reputational risk, and when our reputation is adversely impacted, it erodes stakeholder trust. And also, we have to think in terms of how we should go about when it comes to a bonus payment, especially bonuses paid to board members. So as you know, as you have learned as per what you have learned under your E3 syllabus, board remuneration should be handled by the remuneration committee. The CEO, the non-executive chair, or any other board member cannot determine their own salaries or bonuses. Instead, the salaries and bonuses of board members should be determined by the remuneration committee as per the combined code of corporate governance, which is practiced in the UK. So before I proceed, let me quickly explain what these board committees are. So as you know, as per corporate governance best practices, which are highlighted in the combined code of corporate governance, any board, any quoted company should have at least 3 different board committees, which are the audit, remuneration, and nomination committee. And in certain companies, you'd see a risk committee as well. In most companies nowadays, you'd see the 4th additional committee, which is considered as a risk committee. And if you look at the internals of Cewmlator, as per the pre-seen document, we have combined both CSR and risk management into one single committee, thereby forming one single committee. So let's try to understand the responsibilities which each of these committees should carry out. So the audit committee is supposed to oversee financial reporting. So this committee is supposed to look at whether financial reporting happens properly within our company, and whether we are developing financial statements on an annual basis, which forms our annual report. And also another main responsibility of the audit committee is to set internal controls, because the internal audit department reports to the audit committee. So since the internal audit department reports to the audit committee is involved with setting up the controls which govern all activities which occur within our chosen organization. And on top of that, they are supposed to determine the scope of the internal audit, and as and when necessary, get expertise from the external auditors as well. So it is the audit committee's responsibility to set up the internal audit department within our company, as well as select a reputed and capable external audit firm to audit our financial statements, and as and when necessary, the credibility of our internal controls. And also, it is another responsibility of the audit committee to check whether our operations comply with the local and international regulations concerning our industry. So that's what our audit committee should look like. And looking at the remuneration committee's responsibility is to set executive pay policy, determine the type of incentives as well as bonuses as well as salaries paid to our board members. So that's why I suggested that these bonus payments should not be determined by board members. Instead, it should be determined by the remuneration committee. All right. So let's look at the other responsibilities of the remuneration committee. So, on top of setting the executive pay policy, incentives as well as bonuses, they are supposed to align rewards with performance of each board member. So we should not go for blanket bonus payments. Instead, we have to measure the performance of each and every board member, each and every executive director, and based on their achievement, or based on their performance, or based on the achievement of their personal KPIs or personal targets, they should be dedicated a bonus as and when necessary. So that's the role of the remuneration committee. So as I mentioned earlier, the board members cannot stipulate their own salaries, bonuses, incentives, and whatnot. Instead, these things should be determined by the remuneration committee. And similarly, with regards to the nomination committee, let's look at what the nomination committee's responsibilities are. So the nomination committee is supposed to think in terms of the board composition and the skills. They are supposed to determine whether we have the necessary skill set within the board, whether we have appointed the necessary number of individuals as board members. As per what I've highlighted in the pre-scene analysis videos, there seems to be a gap in terms of technology, information systems, and information technology related expertise within our board, because there's no board member who is looking into IT and IS or technology within our company. So it is up to the nomination committee to look into these matters, and as and when necessary, nominate directors to the board. So always remember, the nomination committee cannot appoint board members, because board appointments should be handled by shareholders. As you know, the shareholders are the owners of the company. So it is the responsibility of the owners to appoint board members as and when necessary. So the nomination committee will not carry the responsibility of appointing board members. However, if they feel that we should appoint a new board member or kick someone out of the board, then it is the job of the nomination committee to contemplate about who can fill the additional role, or if someone is kicked out of the board, who can fill this role. So they have to come up with a list of nominees, and this list of nominees should be shared with the shareholders. The shareholders, as per their understanding, should vote the best person into the position. So that's the responsibility of the nomination committee. So always remember, the board members, the existing executive directors, cannot appoint board members on their own. Instead, they should go through a totally different process. The process should be handled by the nomination committee. If, for instance, if you feel that we should appoint an IT director within our company, the board members cannot decide amongst themselves and appoint someone for the role. Instead, they should consult the nomination committee. Nomination committee will look at various different candidates and come up with a short list, and the short list will be shared with shareholders, and the shareholders will go for a vote through an extraordinary general meeting, and they will select the most appropriate individual as per their understanding. So that's the role of the prime, or the main role of the nomination committee. Therefore, they are involved with succession planning concerning board appointments, as well as they are supposed to conduct independence checks to figure out whether the executive directors are really thinking about satisfying shareholders, or whether they are operating with personal interests. And as I mentioned earlier, some companies have a separate risk committee, and we have combined both CSR and risk into one single committee as per what's highlighted within Cewmlator's pre-scene. So the risk committee is supposed to keep tabs about the risk appetite of our company, and also provide risk oversight, keep tabs about the type of controls within our company which are intended to insulate us against the identified risks. So the risk committee's responsibility is to develop a risk report. You might have already gone through the risk report of your own organization, which is Cewmlator. And in the risk report, there are 6 different risks which the company has identified, and they have considered the impact of each risk. And based on the impact, they have come up with mitigatory strategies. So it's the responsibility of the risk committee of any given company to identify risks and come up with appropriate mitigatory strategies to insulate the company against the risks it faces when operating within certain markets and when operating within the industry. And also, the risk committee is supposed to provide crisis oversight as well. Whenever the company is experiencing a crisis or crisis, then it's the responsibility of the risk committee to look into the matters and provide appropriate leadership as and when necessary. And since CSR is coupled into our risk committee, our existing committee of Cewmlator is supposed to provide CSR oversight, especially in terms of corporate reporting as well, because in this day and age, companies adopt integrated reporting, especially if they believe in sustainability. So rather than simply reporting in terms of the financial performance of the company, it's the responsibility of the risk and CSR committee to look at non-financial reporting as well. That is why, as part of your pre-scene, you'd gain you have gained access to the sustainability report of your chosen company. So these are the responsibilities of the 4 board committees. And let's look at the committee composition. This has nothing to do with the question which I'm discussing right now, but my objective is to teach you the conceptual element. Since we have already touched on board committees, I thought that it's better to talk or explain in terms of committee composition as well. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 4 committees, and as per corporate governance best practices which are practiced in the UK, when you look at the composition of the audit committee, it should comprise of 100% independent non-executive directors. So all members who form the audit committee should be independent non-executive directors. And if you look at Cewmlator's internal dynamics, the non-executive chair is part and parcel of the audit committee. The non-executive chair is not an independent non-executive director. Therefore, we should get rid of this guy, or we should remove this individual from the audit committee. Why is this the case? Why is the Combined Code of Corporate Governance asking us to have 100% independent non-executive directors within the audit committee? Because as I mentioned earlier, the audit committee oversees financial reporting, sets the internal controls, and provides leadership to the internal audit department, and as and when necessary, seek guidance from external auditors, and ensures that we are complying with all rules and regulations. So if we don't have appropriate internal controls within our company, then we are going to face risks and issues in the future, and therefore we might someday face bankruptcy. So the most important elements concerning the future success of our company are handled by the audit committee. So since these guys are looking into the finances, the financial health of our company, looking into the internal controls of our company, the audit committee should comprise of independent individuals who are operating with shareholder interests in mind. So as you know, the executive directors are supposed to manage the company with the intention of generating shareholder wealth. But when we let a separate set of individuals to run the company, they might operate with their own self-interests. They will forget about shareholder interests. Instead, they will always think in terms of trying to improve their incentives, bonuses, or trying to improve their own financial returns. So in order to avoid such a situation, we are supposed to appoint independent non-executive directors. So independent non-executive directors represent shareholder interests within the board. And if independent non-executive directors figure out that the executive directors are operating with self-interests, if they figure out that the executive directors had forgotten about shareholder interests, these independent non-executive directors will inform shareholders of these hiccups. Therefore, the shareholders can take appropriate action. If they feel that some executive director is operating with self-interests, then this person can be kicked out of the board as per the whims of the shareholders. So the executive directors are supposed to run the company to benefit shareholders, but sometimes they don't do so. They only think about themselves. So in order to avoid such a situation, as per the Combined Code of Corporate Governance, which is practiced in the UK, we are supposed to have independent non-executive directors, and these independent non-executive directors are supposed to represent shareholder interests within a board. So it's essential that when managing the financial elements of our company and when setting up the internal controls, it's essential that the individuals which make up this audit committee are independent and are always thinking in terms of safeguarding the shareholders or safeguarding shareholder interests. So that is why, as per the Combined Code of Corporate Governance, the audit committee should comprise of 100% independent non-executive directors to make sure that the company operates its finances and internal controls in the most independent manner with the intention of increasing shareholder wealth. So that's why the audit committee should comprise of 100% independent non-executive directors. However, when you look at the other committees, as per the corporate governance best practices, 50% should be independent non-executive directors, and you can have the remaining members as executive directors. All right. So that's in terms of board composition. So coming back to the question at hand, this is about the bonuses which we are supposed to pay to the board members as per the CEO's suggestion. So we have to, when we are thinking in terms of remunerating our remunerating our board members, we have to think about the role of the remuneration committee. So bonus adjustments must go through the remuneration committee. The CEO or any other board member cannot determine bonuses on their own, as I mentioned earlier. And the formal approval of these bonuses, if we go down this road and if we move towards approving these bonuses, the remuneration committee should look at KPI achievement. They should see whether each board member has achieved KPIs concerning revenue increments, profitability increments, return on investment targets, customer satisfaction, as well as sustainability. If there's some type of a dip in performance in any given board member concerning each of these areas, the remuneration committee should not stipulate a bonus. All right. And therefore, the recommendation is to defer the bonus until the diversification proves sustainable and profitable, and also to develop a communication strategy, thereby classifying the rationale behind this deferral. Because if our shareholders had already gained insights about the possibility of a bonus payment, and if we call this off all of a sudden, they might wonder as to why we called off a bonus. So it's essential that we keep these shareholders informed. That is why we have to develop a communication strategy. Thereby, we should clarify the rationale behind this deferral. So these are the 5 points which I've indicated. So you should, whenever tackling a question to do with directors' bonuses, you should approach your question in a similar manner. First things first, think about governance considerations. Then think in terms of stakeholder expectations, how the shareholders primarily are going to react to these bonus payments. Then think about any type of risks we are exposed to if we go down this route. Then whenever we are going for remuneration concerning board members or paying a bonus or any type of investment, it should be handled by the remuneration committee. Always remember this point. And then you can, if you like, you can come up with a recommendation. So that's exactly what I've done here. I've recommended the fact that we should not move on or go, move forward with this bonus payment. Instead, we have to call it off. Only if these KPIs are achieved, we are supposed to pay a bonus. So that's your fourth step as per our answering technique. Oops. Yes, it's your fourth step. And then once you have developed the answer plan, your next and final step is to expand the answer plan in paragraph form, thereby developing a paragraph per answer point. So that's exactly what you can see. My answer plan or my answer structure looks something like this. However, my final answer looks something like this. So as you can see, I've developed a paragraph per answer point because the examiner tries to replicate a real life corporate environment. So you have to always make sure to develop answers in paragraph form. Don't write the entire answer in one single paragraph. Divide it up so that the marker can easily see how many points you have included, and out of these points, how many are accurate and how many are inaccurate. When you're on the good books of the marker, as I mentioned earlier, you will get 1 or 2 additional marks if you are if you had scored 77 or 78 once the entire points are tallied. All right, so that's how you should approach this exam. So you're not going to master this technique, as I mentioned earlier, simply due to you learning it. Now, since you have learned these techniques, since you have understood how to implement these techniques in the most practical manner, now when attempting each of your mock exams, attempt them under exam conditions. And when attempting each mock exam, practice your answering and time management technique. So if you attempt all 7 of our mock exams, you will gain enough practice, which will enable you to manage your time appropriately at your exam, and at the same time develop high quality answers, well structured answers. Because as I mentioned earlier, the marker is going to look at the quality of your answer, not the quantity. So focus on achieving the required level of quality. Therefore practice these 2 techniques. And as I mentioned in the first webinar, the objective of attempting mocks under exam conditions is to practice your answering and time management technique. However, your knowledge gaps can be fixed when you are watching the master classes, and you can further enhance your understanding by redeveloping answer plans after watching each and every master class. All right, so that's that. And I invite you to practice the answering technique by attempting mock number 1 on TCS's exam platform, which is available under both paid and free content. So we achieved a 91% pass rate in the previous sitting. I'm happy to say this. And you can achieve a similar feat if you stick to our techniques and if you stick to our study plan, thereby taking steps to master a mock exam per week. So having said that, I'm moving to the Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can switch on your mic and talk, or simply drop us a message via the chat. I will address all your concerns. Any questions, folks? Any questions? Did you understand the answering technique? Are there any misunderstandings or areas which you didn't really gain a clarity of what you expected to achieve? Any questions? So Michael, I will get back to you. via WhatsApp. And Zolil is asking a question. Do you have any tips for expanding on a point? I struggle when I need to justify my point. So the justification happens when you're developing your answer plan. So, let me quickly go back to the answer plan. So first things first, let's look at the first point in which I've highlighted the governance considerations. Bonuses should reward realized performance, not projected outcomes. So that's my first justification. And diversification benefits remain unproven. Therefore, if we prematurely reward our board members right now, we are not really aligning ourselves with good governance practices. So that's my justification. So when it comes to expanding the answer in paragraph form, this is what I've done. While the CEO's optimism surrounding the diversification and the suggestion to increase board member bonuses may be justified, the proposal to increase board remuneration at this early stage should be approached with caution. Firstly, even if you don't include this first paragraph, you will still get marks. Firstly, bonuses should be tied to realized performance. So that's the exact same thing which I've highlighted within my answer plan. Okay. Bonuses should be tied to realized performance, not projected outcomes. Bonuses should reward realized performance, not projected outcomes. Okay. And while the diversification may offer strategic benefits such as recurring revenue, improved cash flow, and enhanced investor sentiment, these gains remain uncertain until the product is successfully launched, adopted by clients, and financially validated. So that's the same point. Diversification benefits such as recurring revenue, improved cash flows, and whatnot remain unproven. And approving bonus increases before tangible results materialize could contradict with good governance practices and risk creating a perception of rewarding strategy over execution. So that's my third point. Premature reward, shows that we are weakly aligning with good governance practices. So your planning, the logic of your answer, your justifications, everything should appear when you are developing the answer plan, not when you are typing out your answer. So don't leave any room to think when you are typing your answer or expanding your answer plan. All the thinking should occur when you are developing the answer plan. So come up with your justifications. Think about what type of conceptual elements should be brought in. Think about what type of pre-seen information should be brought in with the intention of enhancing the quality of your answer. So all these things should occur when you are planning the answer. And when it comes to typing, it's simply a matter of expanding the answer plan. Don't try to think when you are typing, because in this exam, I'm going to highlight these things in the upcoming webinar, which is the fourth webinar. You're not supposed to multitask, because if you try to multitask, if you try to read, type, as well as plan all three elements together, if you try to do all these three elements together, you are going to struggle a lot at your examination. So as per our answering technique, you are supposed to, give me a second, please, I'll go up. So as per our answering technique, you are supposed to read the scenario. So within the first 5 to 7 minutes, you are reading. Then you are dedicating your time towards planning the answer. Once you have planned the answer, once you have determined what you should include in your entire answer, then you are dedicating your efforts towards typing. So you are reading first, then you are planning, and once you have developed the plan, then you are focusing on typing. You are not supposed to mix all these three elements and do these three elements together, because 99% of the students out there, what they do is they try to read, plan, as well as type at the same time. So you are supposed to avoid such a scenario. That's why I said you should stick to this answering technique, thereby approach reading first, then plan, and after you have planned out your entire answer, focus your attention towards typing. I hope I addressed your concern. Did I? Zolil, did I answer your question? And additionally, if even when you are planning your answer, if you are struggling in terms of justifying your points, you need not worry. Simply watch the master classes, and refer to the answer plans, then you can easily figure out how you should drive your justifications, because we conduct our master classes focused on these answer plans. You saw how we conduct our master classes and what is contained within these master classes. So, via my explanations, hopefully you will understand how to approach each and every question, how to build your justifications. And also, by referring to our answer plans, you can clearly see how each and every point should be justified. So when you stick to this process, when you practice each mock exam under exam conditions, you are practicing your answering, time management, and stress management, which is one single element of your preparations. And once you're done with the mock attempt, then you are focusing your attention towards understanding the logic behind each answer, learning conceptual elements, and learning application. So whilst learning these things, you will easily understand how to drive your justifications. So you might not be in a position to figure out these things on your own. That is why we have developed the master classes and the answer plans, and learn your knowledge areas, or improve your knowledge by watching the master classes. Don't stop your preparations there. Take steps to redevelop answer plans. Test for yourself to figure out whether you have gained something out of the master classes, whether your skill set has improved, whether the quality of your answers has improved. Check all these things on your own by redeveloping answer plans. So it's extremely important to redevelop answer plans or to conduct your revision, because when you take steps to redevelop answer plans, you are also taking steps to improve the quality of your answers, thereby improve the quality of justifications. I hope I addressed your concern. Esau is saying, hello, John from South Africa. Hi, John. Will the mock exams be marked? Yes. If you opt for the premium course, as I mentioned earlier, it comes with one-on-one tutor feedback on 2 mock exams, namely mocks 3 and 5. And this is the type of feedback on offer at TCS. So we have evaluated each and every point in depth with the prime intention of highlighting your shortcomings, because if you understand your shortcomings, you can take steps to fix these problems when you are conducting revision. If so, you'd end up avoiding these issues at your real examination, and you'd get mark allocations along with the success rates on a subtask by subtask basis as well. All right, yes, you receive tutor feedback on mocks 3 and 5. Anything else, folks? Recording. All right, folks, thank you very much for those questions. I hope I addressed everything. So if you want to contact us, you can do it via our website, which is www.study@tcs.com. Visit our website and click on the contact button and drop us a message. Our admin staff will get in touch with you via email during office hours. And you can email us at info@study@tcs.com. Or if you need instantaneous support, WhatsApp us on this WhatsApp number. And I urge you to follow us on our social media handles, especially YouTube and TikTok. And if you are yet to read our blog post, you can visit the blog page and read the blog posts as blog post, which is relevant for Cewmlator as well. So having said that, it brings us to the end of the 3rd webinar. I hope you gained an in-depth understanding of the answering and time management techniques. And I hope you will stick to our study plan and practice these 2 techniques when attempting mocks 1 and 2 as per our study plan. And I hope to see you guys next year, in which I'm going to conduct the 4th webinar. So by the time you are attending our 4th webinar, please make sure to attempt the first 2 mock exams and to master the answers behind the first 2 mock exams. And I wish you the best of luck in the year 2026. And I wish you guys very Merry Christmas. So thank you for joining. I'll see you guys next year with the 4th webinar. Thank you for joining. Take care and have fun.